Welcome to Lead Desk, my name's Rob Edwards. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the fundamental aspects of any Lead Desk environment, your contact lists. While your projects may be the engine which drives the activity within Lead Desk, your contact lists are the fuel. And just like any engine, if you want the best performance from it, you need to feed it the best fuel. Now, of course, a lot of what makes a good contact list happens long before it hits Lead Desk. Where have you sourced these contacts from? What checking have you done on the validity of the information in it? All of these things are outside of our control in Lead Desk. But there are some things that we can do with contact lists in Lead Desk which will help that efficiency. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a few of those. So as well as creating the contact lists, we're going to look at how we set our calling rules, how we can filter our contact list to make sure that duplicates aren't an issue for it, and a few other specific details which can be used to fine-tune what your contacts list look like and how they behave. Let's get into the application. So, as you would expect, the contact lists can be found in the contact list page, and within that your lists are stored in the contact lists subpage. Click the Create button and that will take you into the Create Contact List page. Now, before we actually go ahead and create any new contact lists, I'd like to draw your attention to this option in the Import Contact List section. Lead Desk has a default expectation of what a contact list looks like, the way it is laid out. And while it is not essential that your contact list that you have matches that format precisely, if you haven't yet committed to a long contact list in some other format, you may want to download the standard Lead Desk template from here. Doing so will let you then manage your contacts into the format Lead Desk is expecting, and it will all go that little bit smoother. But it is not mandatory. As long as your contact lists files are in CSV or Excel format with a maximum of 10 megabytes, we should be able to import them into Lead Desk and handle any mismatch of fields when that happens. Let us say that we have our contact list waiting in a CSV or Excel file and we're ready to upload it. So the first thing we need to do is decide whether we are creating a brand new contact list here or adding contacts to an existing contact list. The example I'm going to use today is going to be creating a brand new one, so we'll just leave this option selected here. The next thing we need to do is find a name for our contact list. And this is one of those things which is easy to overlook the importance of. It's easy to go, January contact list. Actually, naming your contact list is hugely important later on when we're trying to use them, so we know what the intent behind this contact list was for. So if you have a contact list which is specifically about selling one of your products, maybe contact list sales for that product would be a good name. Make it meaningful, make it something that you will understand when you come across it later on and try and work out what that contact list was for. It's really important. So I'm creating a contact list here called Onboarding Contact List because this is a video about onboarding. We can give it a legend, which is to say a descriptor, so we can explain what this contact list is for. It's actually a really useful thing, again, once you've been using a contact list for a while, to be able to come back and see what it was about. I'm going to skip it for now, but I would actually recommend generally for your contact list that you do put some sort of description in the legend field. If you are creating a Lead Desk environment which is going to be supporting multiple offices from multiple sponsors, the next two fields are really important because we can define which office this contact list is in use by and which sponsor is in control of this contact list. These are things we haven't talked about in the onboarding videos yet, so I am, for today anyway, going to skip them. The next set of rules, which are ones we do need to think about, are all about making sure that we comply with local legislation about what we are allowed to do when calling people. So it may well be that in your region you are only allowed to call a particular customer 3 times before it starts being considered to be a nuisance call. So in that case, we want to make sure that we limit the number of call attempts per number to 3. In your region, that number might be different. It might be 5 calls. It might only be 2. So bear that in mind and use this setting to control how many attempts Lead Desk will make to call a particular number or a particular contact. As the contact list gets older, the information in it becomes less current. People change phones, move jobs, move houses. So the data you're going to have in your contact list is going to become less and less valid. And the more invalid data you have in your contact list, the less efficient it's going to be. Choosing an expiry date which puts it in use for long enough to get the best out of it, but it doesn't start getting stale, again, you need to make that decision for yourself. I'm going to choose 6 months for me, so that is going to be August of 2024 that I am going to continue until, let's say, the end of August. Likewise, the calling time here is not mandatory. You don't have to set anything in here, but I know that in some countries there are laws about what time of day you can call as a business call, for a cold call anyway. So for that type of region, we need to think about what times of day is valid to be making calls. And maybe in the region that you work in, you're only allowed to call between 10 and 3. So we can put that restriction on this contact list. And it may seem counterproductive to be restricting your contact list, but the last thing you want is to have your phone number become identified as a nuisance caller, because then all of these things which automatically block nuisance callers are going to start blocking your calls, and that makes your contact list less efficient. So really important that we abide by the rules in your region if you want to be able to keep your contact list as efficient as possible. I have a file, so I'm going to click on Choose File. It's an Excel file that I have called Contact List for Onboarding. By default, LeadDesk will automatically format phone numbers that it finds in your contact list you're uploading into a standard format. Generally speaking, that is the best choice. It will make it easier to match for blacklisting. It will make it easier to find duplicates. Generally speaking, you want to make sure that we have the automatic phone number formatting enabled. So don't tick that box. But if you have a particular reason that you need to disable it, then you can. Likewise, LeadDesk has standard name formats that it uses. And again, this is about recognizing duplicates, recognizing things which are in blacklists. And again, you're probably best not to tick this option, but if you have a reason you want your names to remain in the exact format they are in your database, then by all means tick this box. The order of your contact list doesn't generally matter. It is going to be calling all those numbers in that contact list eventually. If you have uploaded the contact list with the ones that you want to call first, then by all means click to tick the box for keeping the list in order. But generally in most use cases, that's not going to be very important. And while you can create a new project based on this contact list, I personally always prefer to not do that and manually set up the project so that I know my settings for it are correct. The final section here is about filtering this list. The first thing it does, the first check that it does, is to see if there are any duplicate phone numbers, duplicate contacts within this contact list. And if there are, by default, it will remove those duplicates so you don't call the same contact more times than the rule we set up above about how many times we're allowed to call that contact. But again, if you want to leave duplicates in there, then you can uncheck this box. It's also entirely possible to set up blacklists which contain numbers which should not be called for some reason. And if you do have those numbers, those blacklisted numbers in a contact list you're uploading, that it can remove any blacklisted numbers so you never try and call them. If you are creating a contact list which is going to be all about outbound calling, then there's very little need for having contacts without phone numbers in them. Alternatively, if you're creating a contact list for a customer service type environment, then you could tick this box if that's what you want to be able to do. When we were looking at duplicates earlier, it is looking specifically at, in my case, my contact list for onboarding Excel file that I'm uploading. If I have other existing contact lists on my LeadDesk environment and I want to check for duplicates against those as well, that's what this bottom option is here. When I am happy with all these settings, I can click the Create button. If we had used the default LeadDesk template when we created our contact list, we would be done now. It would be finished already. But in my case, I didn't. I chose to have a contact list which doesn't match the field names that we have in LeadDesk that I have in my Excel file. So what we're doing now is matching the details that I have in my Excel file to the details that lead desk is expecting. Now, it's been able to work out some of these already. I have a field in my Excel file called email, so it has got the lead desk email and it's matched that, and that seems to be perfectly sensible. But I have some other fields here which don't match the same field names that lead desk is expecting. But it doesn't mean they're wrong. For example, my Excel file has forename and surname instead of first name and last name. So if I want to say, okay, whenever you see a forename, match it to the first name, you can just drag it across like so. And likewise surname to last name. And in fact, my location is the city field. The last field I've got to match is my telephone number. And that can go into phone number, but it could also go into phone number 2, 3, and 4 down here as well. So if you have multiple phone numbers, an office number and a mobile number, or a home number and a mobile number, you need to think about which one is going to be the primary phone number for a contact. Now, I actually only have one telephone number in my contact list, so that's an easy choice. I just stick that one in against the phone number. But if you had office number and mobile number, then you might want to think about which of those matches the primary phone number field within lead desk. As well as the standard demographic details that I've got matched up here, notice that lead desk does have a whole host of other info fields. So if your contact list contains things like subscription number or products owned or any kind of other additional details which are not part of the standard demographic range, you can match those with other info fields. And that will mean that they show up in the contact card when agents are looking at these contacts and calling them, which can be a really useful thing to be able to do. Once you've matched all of your fields, including your other info fields, scroll to the bottom and click the Create Contact List button. My contact list is relatively small, so it will finish pretty much instantly. So there we go, it's already ready. But if you were uploading a contact list with 10,000 phone numbers in it, it will take a little bit longer to process it. It has successfully added 8 contacts, because that's how many there are in my file. It's suggesting 2 of them have no valid phone number, but none of the contacts we had matched any of our blacklisted ones, so they all got uploaded, and likewise none of them were filtered out for being duplicates. This section up here, the contact list creation, by the way, stays on the screen, but I can get rid of it once I have looked at that information by clicking on the hide here, and that will just put it into my regular list of contact lists. And you can see it's got a yellow star because it's relatively recently created. That yellow star will eventually go away. So that is how we create contact lists. In later videos, we'll have a look at how we attach those to a project, and then we'll have a look at how the agent goes about calling the contacts in this contact list. To sum up, today we looked at the importance of contact lists, we looked at how we can create them in lead desk, how we can check for duplicates, how we can set rules which make sure that we don't fall foul of laws around nuisance calling, and how we can set an end date on the contact list to make sure we're not still using it when the information in it has gone stale. I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching.